Okay, everyone, let's talk this week for the short attention span webinar on how to deliver that kick-ass presentation. And speaking of kick-ass, the roller derby queen herself, Sister, what was it? Sister Sledge?
Sister Sledgehammer.
Sister Sledgehammer. You got to read the bio on Kelly. She is a woman of mystery. And never live that down. Never live that down. That's just
I don't think I want to live it down.
No.
I don't want to live it down.
No, you definitely do not. But let's talk about the presentation. You know, it's so funny. I remember being surprised, Kelly, when someone said to me, you know, you got me the appointment, Bill. I've been working with you. You got me the appointment. Now I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm. What are you talking about?
Right.
Well, I don't. You know, what do I do in front of the customer? And it was funny because I had never really thought about the fact that people don't know how to do that. This was years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, well, let's talk about that process then. And anyway, so I always make sure that my customers have a good footing. It's not just get the appointment, but it's amazing how many people, this is the finish line.
Right.
You know, and you get here and you're not prepared. So last week we talked about preparation. First step is to build rapport. Now I'm interested to see how you do that. I've got a method to me. How do you do it when you build rapport?
You know, it really kind of depends. I mean, I think even a lot of people say that this is kind of cheesy to like make a remark about something in their office. I typically will only do that if I actually have a connection to it. So for example, if I see something that shows me that they're like obsessed with golf, I'll talk about my own experiences with golf or something like that. But I tend to just pick up their cues. I mean, this is where your own kind of instinct and ability to read people kind of comes out pretty strongly. Like I just met with a guy for the first time a couple weeks ago, and 3 minutes later, we're both talking about the movies that we love and how many books I read and what book I'm reading right now. And, you can tend to get a little carried away with that, though. I mean, you have to always still be very aware of time frames and is there a hard stop on this appointment? Because many times people really just want to be listened to and they want to make that connection, but you have to make sure that you understand that you could have a finite amount of time, so you don't want to drain through everything talking about Wes Anderson. You know,
well, that's a good point. I'm going to get back to that hard stop thing in a second, but I look around. I'm trying to look at the pictures, the number of pictures, because I remember from the disc profiling, one of the things it said was you can learn a lot if they've got a ficus plant, if they've got warm colors in their office, if they're neat and organized. You can pick up a lot of clues that come in later. But I also want to be very genuine in my earnest, my desire to learn about somebody, and I want to be a very good listener. So listening intently with my ears, my eyes, my entire body, and not, writing something down or kind of looking around or just right on somebody. So build a rapport. You also, and I'm not sure if this step comes before or after, I got a feeling the step comes after the rapport building, is just to confirm how much time we have.
Yeah.
You told me we have 30 minutes. Is that still the case? Client comes back and says, well, actually, we have 20 minds. Now you have to truncate. First of all, stop talking about Wes Anderson and move on. So you don't want the rapport to go too far. By the way, be careful on things like sports. It's funny, I get into sports conversations and people are extremely passionate. I had a difficult time with anybody from Michigan last year because of the Red Sox beating the Tigers, and it was like, okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
So next up is the agenda, and you mentioned this last week, Kelly. So say it again: your agenda and their agenda.
Right. You just want to make sure. My understanding of the reason that I'm here is I want to make sure that we're on the same page. And please share with me if there's anything else or anything other that I should be covering today, or that you want to express to me right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Just like that. Here, bang, bang, bang. And like we said last week, it might go a different direction, especially if there are multiple people in the room. Your contact is not the key contact or the key decision maker. The key decision maker says, well, either before we get to that or whatever, and they take you a different direction. Listen for clues in that. Listen to the questions that they ask. They might be looking for credibility. If you're talking about something like variable data printing, and someone adds, and the key decision maker says, Kelly, tell me about your company, you might take that as a clue of, you're looking for credibility that the data can be trusted. So, and if they ask questions about your background or whatever, they're giving you clues to exactly what they're interested in. So set the agenda, check out their agenda. The next thing is to review the problem. And okay, you're thinking, again, I'm here to solve this problem. From what I understand, you have a print and mail issue, or you've got a follow-up problem. I wouldn't even call it problem. You might say the challenge
Opportunity
here.
or
Yeah, and this is why we're here. And the reason we do this, Kelly, is?
The reason we do this is, well, again, it's just to make sure that there's no surprises, that we know exactly why we're here. Just to get it all out there.
And also hear it again, because you might hear something different. Or again, if you're dealing with multiple people, this is what Chuck told me. Is there anything else you'd want to add to that?
And the higher up, I feel like the higher up the person, if somebody brings in a C-level person, you just have to understand that it's not necessarily that the circumstances or anything is different, but the language might be different. They're actually talking more about what the result will be of the project, and believe me, they don't care about paper stock grades or numbers of ink or anything like that. They think in much bigger terms about what the process will do for them.
Yeah.
So, again, just to understand, what the types of problems are or issues are based on the title of the person that's in the room with you.
Yeah, and they're going to give you clues also that will help you with closing. Okay, so supposing they're talking about reliability, or they're talking about what happens if there's a problem, and you probe into that a little bit and say, have you had problems with your existing vendor? One of my questions that I ask on a presentation is, why am I here?
Right.
And I might not directly ask that, but I want to know what's going on. So if you find out that there's been an issue with reliability, and they come back later on and say your price is too high, now you know to play that card. Yeah, you know what? We're going to be a little more. This is what you're going to get from that. You're going to get full transparency. You're going to know where your job is. You're going to have the communication that you didn't have before. And our reliability, as we've proven, is 99.9%.
And here again is where anecdotal selling is very handy, where you can say, I've had a lot of other customers tell me that this was a problem for them, and this was how we solved that problem in the past, and this was the result. And in fact, these people would be more than willing to tell you themselves what it's like to do business with me. Because what ends up happening when you're having these meetings with people that don't know you is it's all words, right? You can't, absent actual data that says we are 99.9% on-time delivery and we have a 0.4% error rate, the only way to really prove to somebody that you can do what you say you can do is for them to give you a try, or for you to tell them that you've done it for other people and that those people are actually willing to give you an actual reference or referral.
When it comes to stating the solution, I like the idea of having either a backup solution or a second solution. And I remember hearing a friend of mine who's an attorney say, when I'm negotiating, I give two options. This is the one that I want them to take, but I offer them this one to compare it against. It's funny. I remember when Katie, my oldest, was 16, she said, or going to turn 16, she said, Dad, I know what I want for my birthday. I said, what's that? She said, I either want a car or a new iPod. I said, I'm not going to buy you a car. What are you, out of your mind? And she said, I really want a car. I really, 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 really want a car. And she's pushing. But I'm not going to buy you a car. You'll get an iPod, and you'll be lucky. You'll be happy with it, and blah, blah, blah. But she didn't want the car. She knew she wasn't going to get the car. She wanted an iPod.
That is your daughter right there, Bill.
Well, I'll tell you what, about 3 weeks, she turns 24. So she's all fired up. And I'm not buying her a car this year either. And she works for Apple, so she can get her own damn iPod.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so finally, then you state the solution or solutions. And then you go for the close, right? The ABCs for closing are always be closing. And you're going to get some objections. They're not going to say, wow, that's great. Where do we sign? Probably, unless you're really good.
Right.
You're going to get objections. And you got to be ready for those objections. So it might be, we're not ready to make the decision now. That's an interesting objection. Later on, Kelly, when we hear people say, how, the clients dropped off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Where did they go? And I keep calling, I get nothing. This is the time right now to say, When are we going to talk again? When's the decision going to be made? How do I get in touch with you? Do you mind if I continue to call? Can we pinky swear that you'll call me back?
Right.
So something like that. You might get a price objection. You might get a, we're not ready for that objection, especially if it's new, like crazy new. Now you know you're selling into fear. All right, and we have had webinars on that in the past. What am I missing in all this thing, Kelly?
Well, I think the important thing is to be able to recognize a put off and recognize it as basically the stepchild of an objection.
Right.
Because saying something like, we're going to, let us take this information and it looks really good and we're going to just go back and kind of work this by committee on their end, that's a put off. You have to be able to at least, because what are you going to do? You're going to walk out of there and go, oh my gosh, that meeting was so great. I totally nailed it. And then, as you said, they're going to fall off the face of the earth. So we want to make sure we're giving them reasons to make a decision and creating some sort of a sense of urgency. Now, that can be tricky, but again, it's all in that language of, when will this decision be made? And again, you may even want to talk about something like press time. Like because you've indicated to me that this project needs to ship by the end of April, I want to go back and schedule some press time for you. So let's talk about, how this decision going to be made and what more do you need from me in order for, and again, this is the time to say, I want it to be me. I want you to decide that I want to be the one that you pick.
If you're close enough with your key contact, this is something that you can talk about ahead of time.
Yeah.
What are my odds of walking out of here with an order? What do you think the next step is going to be? So prepare.
Yep.
Okay. So that's it for this week's Short Attention Span webinar. Thank you, Kelly Malazzi.
Thank you, Bill.
And we'll talk to you all again next week.